David Quadrelli is the editor-in-chief of Canucks Army. He's the host of Canucks Conversation. He's 40 minutes late for this scheduled interview, and he broke my chair. Other than that, our collaboration with the Nation Network is going just fine. A month.
How do you defend yourself, Mr. Quadrelli?
Okay, I didn't break the chair. All I know is one day we came in and we had been doing the show for about a week and a half, and somebody pointed out in our YouTube comment section that I was taller than Harmon, and Harmon wasn't very happy with that. So Harmon adjusted Matt's chair because Harmon sits in Matt's chair, I sit in Blake's chair, and the next day we're told that Matt thought that someone broke his chair or adjusted his chair, and apparently it was pinned on me, and I was like, this is unbelievable. Everybody blaming the short guy on raising the chair, but no, it was Harmon who wanted to be higher up in the chair. So he's been the culprit there, and I just want to say I think Blake and I have had a great partnership on that side of the studio. I don't think we've had one complaint about each other, but we do switch the chairs every day.
What's the problem with the chair?
Look at this chair. It's now wobbly. It moves in directions it never moved before.
That's the chair Harmon
and I can't set it back to where it was in a rigid position.
Well, it wasn't me,
Quadrelli. Leaders take the blame when things go poorly and deflect the praise. The first thing you did was sue or harm.
There is an alternative. There is an alternative here to this whole thing. Matt is not the handiest. I think there's a potential here, and hear me out, that the chair is not broken and that there's a setting that can fix it.
So how come they haven't done that in the last couple of weeks, Blake? That would be my question.
Because
they heard of my displeasure with the chair the day after it happened.
You're asking the two Gen Zers to fix the chair?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Exactly. This is where our problem is, gentlemen. We need a chair expert to come in. I actually thought about this.
He can't set an alarm, much less fix a chair.
Fair.
You know?
Fair.
I actually thought about putting out a call on Twitter and just being, does anybody know how an office chair works, like what all the levers do? Because my chair right now isn't optimized for my posture and everything, so I'd like it to be changed.
It's not, is it? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. You needed optimized posture out of
this relationship. You need your lumbar support. Wow. If the chair can do it, why aren't you taking advantage of it? The only answer for me is because I don't know how to make it work for me.
Listeners should know, Quadrelli was in here about 48 hours when he proposed changing the name of the studio to Blake and I.
True. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
We're thought like a little
expected. Lot of gumption.
Why does the chair have 17 levers? Like, it's a simple office chair. Yeah. How does it have that many?
And fresh out of the box, only about 3 of them work.
Well, no wonder the company we got it from went bankrupt. All right.
You've got gumption. The Canucks last night did not have any gumption.
They had gumption. They came back down 3 in the third period. That's gumption.
Yeah, and then they put all the gumption in the toilet and they pressed flush. That was a weird game. David, how'd you see it?
Well, where do you start, right? Like they can't overcome a bad 40 minutes of play, right? And when I wrote instant reaction over at Canucks Army, the angle I took was that the players didn't like that the only tribute to Travis Green was a video board they put him up on the video board. They wanted to play like they did when Travis Green was the coach.
I was wondering where you're going.
Very good. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. Good.
Stay with me, guys. They stopped defending at 5-on-5.
He's not a particularly good teammate, not handy, but he's got jokes.
He's creative. He's got
jokes.
Yeah. Continue.
Mm-hmm. I have to give some credit to Kevin Woodley because he was the first one that pointed this out to me, where he was like, yeah, they're defending like they did with Travis. So I was thinking about it more, and I'm like, okay, so they stopped defending at 5-on-5, 5 alarm chances against Thatcher Demko. Then they mount this valiant comeback on the back of their best players, making you think that they might just be a great team. And then in the end, they completely have a lapse of focus to allow the Devils to score that 6th goal, and they basically come up short in the comeback effort. It was the perfect tribute to Travis Green. But that 6th goal I really want to focus on, because that was the point of ire for Rick Tocchet post game, when he said you could really blame all 5 guys on the ice. And he just said, I really don't know where anybody was going on that play. And you go back and look at it, and he's absolutely right. You pick a guy, pick any guy on the ice, and you think, okay, you're supposed to be there. Wait, why aren't you there? And all of a sudden you're just seeing this epic breakdown. And look, I'm sorry, but to odd man rush chances in the first 5 minutes of the game to
There's
Jesper Bratt.
three, I would say.
Three.
Two for
Yeah.
Bratt. Yeah. Crazy.
Exactly. I think I counted. It's funny. We have a little thing going on in our show where I have a problem with Natural Stat Trick and how they list high danger scoring chances. And I'm coming up with my own system, and we're kind of coming up with a name for it. Right now we're at high danger chances. That's the name to beat. But I counted 8 against Thatcher Demko in that first period, and Natural Stat Trick only had 4. I counted 8 really high danger chances, like 5 alarm chances against Thatcher Demko in that first period. And you guys are right. There was a ton of odd man rushes. I just noticed the two Jesper Bratt in the first 5 minutes of the game. The first one, Demko turns aside. The second one, he's not as lucky on. And it's just, that can't happen at the NHL. Like, that can't happen at the NHL level. You cannot defend that way. And look, like, I'm sorry, but Jack Hughes waiting out Tyler Myers to make a mistake, that kid should not be able to know that that's going to happen. And he perfectly telegraphed that Myers was going to make a mistake, and he capitalizes on it, sending the puck into the middle of the ice for Eric Hall. And just from there, I just felt like they were playing catch up, and they ultimately came up short.
You're absolutely right. You're not the only one who's got a problem with Natural Stat Trick and the tabulation of high danger chances. And you've now admitted to plagiarizing Kevin Woodley on top of the other sins.
He was a muse, not plagiarizing. Kevin was his muse.
Can I ask you this? Is Hughes Bowl going to be fun going forward, or do the Canucks actually have to start winning some of these games against Jack and the Devils for it to be as fun as it could be?
Well, it's 6-1 right now, right? Like the Devils are 6-1 in the Hughes Bowl, and that was the first time with Luke. So maybe you give it a clean slate for Quinn, but even then, you still have a losing record after last night. Look, is it fun? Yeah, like last night's game was fun. Speaking of Woodley, we were joking on the walk down. We were like, maybe we should ask all the players if they had a lot of fun in that game, because it was a fun one to watch. And obviously, we didn't ask that, but it was a fun game. Like, it was a fun game. And think about it. If you're the NHL, that's what you want, right? Like, you want a fun game, a high-scoring affair like that. A high-flying game with a ton of rush chances. Maybe not as many as the Canucks gave up, but a ton of rush chances.
Mistakes are fun. Mistakes are fun. That's why we like the World Juniors. Kids making mistakes, right?
You know, honestly, the game sort of brought me back a little bit to the Boudreau era of high-flying. And frankly, I think the thread line here, David, through all these struggles against New Jersey, because it goes back even further than that, they play a high-tempo game. We know in years past, the Vancouver Canucks have not had great foot speed. In fact, it's probably still not where it needs to be. And so they get you into these sorts of games, and the Canucks have not had the discipline. And I think that's why Tocchet was as angry as he was post-game. But they have not had the discipline, certainly under Boudreau and Green, to avoid playing into the Devils' hands. And so you get these sorts of games.
Quaz, they've got better depth. They've got National Hockey League defensemen playing most of the positions now. When Carson Soucy comes back, they'll have 6 National Hockey League defensemen through and through. But 4 of those National Hockey League defensemen will be thoroughly vetted $3 million kind of defensemen in the National Hockey League, which is to say that nobody really is reputationally ready to be a 3-4 defense pair on a decent team. Is that going to rear its head here as we see if the Canucks can bounce back and actually show structure over 82 games? Like, anybody can show structure for, a dozen, maybe even 20 games. But is this team, with the defensemen that they have, are they going to be able to show defensive structure over 82?
I want to say yes, because obviously a big part of it has to do with the forwards. But in terms of just the defense pairings that we're talking about here, we saw the structure start to really break down when Quinn Hughes and Philip Hronek were playing 30 minutes a night. And, to their credit, the Calgary game, like, we saw them play 23 minutes each or something around that margin, a lot less than they had been playing until Nikita Zadorov had been acquired. In that game, you also saw Ian Cole's ice time come down. And as a result, Ian Cole had one of his best games as a Canucks, where the Canucks outchanced the Flames 7-2 with him on the ice. Like, that's a result of him playing less. Like, you're looking at a 34-year-old who's playing the highest minutes of his career. So yes, sure, he's not Ian Cole's not a bona fide number 3 defenseman, but he was having to play like one for this team. So the healthier you get, even if these guys aren't world beaters that are coming back, the fact that they're NHL defensemen is it's a massive step up from where the Canucks have been in recent years, and it's definitely a step up from where they are now. So I'm going to say yes, that the defensive structure is going to improve the more NHL guys you add back in the lineup. Look, I think I won't say most concerning. I think that sounds a bit reactionary, but one thing I'm concerned about is Filip Hronek's ability to carry his own pairing after what we saw last night. And if you're the Canucks and you're going into negotiations with this guy, the conversation we've all been having is, okay, well, he's putting up a lot of points. He's playing really well, but he's also playing with Quinn Hughes. You don't want to pay Quinn Hughes' partner $8+ million. Can this guy hold on his own pairing? And once Ethan Bear is healthy, assuming the Canucks sign him, of course, we're likely going to see Quinn Hughes and Ethan Bear as a pair, which means Filip Hronek is going to have his own pairing. And look, last night, I didn't love Filip Hronek's game. I thought he was late getting to his spot a couple times. So, as much as we're talking about the bottom of the lineup guys, it's those guys too. Like not so much Quinn Hughes, obviously, but Filip Hronek has to play like an actual number 2 defenseman. He needs to be able to hold his own pairing. That's what the Canucks thought they were getting when they traded for him. And look, it's one game. Like I'm sure he'll turn things around, but he has to do it first. And I'm not so worried about the bottom of the lineup. Like when Carson Soucy comes back, I'm not worried about that so much. I think that's going to have a positive effect on the guys at the top of the lineup, but the guys at the top of the lineup still need to get it done.
Last question from me before I go back to seeing if I can figure this chair out. Kuzmenko, do you think it's going to work with Tocchet? And our poll question today, should they have dealt him at the deadline last year? What says you?
Well, I said yes at the deadline last year. Like Faber and I were both very hard on the idea of them trading him. They needed to trade Kuzmenko. You could get a first-round pick. We were talking about all this. And I admitted that I was probably wrong about that later in the season when his goal total approached 40. Look, did I expect him to be this bad this season? No, but he's noticeable, guys. Like he's noticeable for all the wrong reasons. And look, should they have traded him at the deadline? Maybe. Like you had your head coach at that point, right? And with all this organizational alignment, to their credit, like I don't think we've seen the Canucks be this aligned from top to bottom in a while. For all that talk, did Rick Tocchet think that he was going to like Andrei Kuzmenko at some point? There were warning signs last year, right? Like it wasn't like Kuzmenko went to Bali and forgot how to play defensively. No, this is who he is. Like this is who he is. The problem now is that the goals aren't coming. And this is the conversation that every head coach, we've heard Bruce Boudreau talk about it in the context of Nils Höglander. Every head coach talks about this, that, hey, if you're not going to be a 40-goal guy, you better not be hurting the team when you're out there. And right now, Andrei Kuzmenko is hurting the team every time he's out there. Just think about the fact that the answer, and, Ilya Mikheyev too, we could talk about him another time, I suppose, but think about that the answer on Elias Pettersson's line has been Sam Lafferty and Dakota Joshua.
Yeah.
2 bottom 6 players playing on Elias Pettersson's wing have been the answer. And those guys have looked last night a lot better than Kuzmenko and Mikheyev have at any point this season.
That's a fantastic point, David. Yeah. That's a fantastic point. In fact,
none of us would have expected it.
You have redeemed all of your misgivings earlier in the interview and in the studio.
All's forgiven. Clean slate.
All is forgiven. He is magnificent as an interviewee. Thank you for this, buddy. Look forward to getting this chair back in working order. Have a great show with Harm today. Give him my best. We'll catch up soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
This Sekeres and Price clip brought to you by Applewood Auto Group. And remember,
it's all good at Applewood.